Hi, everyone. We're very excited to welcome you all to today's webinar, all about upcoming travel opportunities with the UC Retirees Travel Program. And so I'm going to introduce Sue Barnes and Frank when he joins. They are both volunteers with the UC Retirees Travel Program, and they're going to give you this great overview today. So go ahead, Sue.
Thanks, Camille, and welcome everybody. As Camille said, I'm a volunteer, coordinate the UC Retirees Travel Program. I've been doing that since I retired from UCLA in 2019. And of course, we all know what happened in 2020. So there was a long pause in the program, but we started up again about a year ago. And we've been taking many, many retirees on trips. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm just going to have some slides to share with you. So before I talk about our upcoming trips, I want to tell you a little bit more about where we've been in the last couple of years and a little bit about the program itself. And then we'll look at the trips we have coming up. So UC Retirees Travel is an all-volunteer initiative. It's been in existence since 2004. We currently offer about 12 to 15 group trips per year for retired staff and faculty from all of the UC locations and the 3 national labs that are managed by UC. So let's look at some of the places we've been, because we've had some really fun trips in the last couple of years since we started up again. We went to Cuba, where we explored the rich culture and history of this fascinating country. We learned about Cuban dance culture. We tasted wine in the gorgeous Vinales Valley and much, much more. We actually have another group headed out to Cuba in about a week and a half, and they're very excited about that. We also went to Chile and Argentina, and I escorted this trip where we went on a raft ride, we rode horses, we hiked in the beautiful Torres del Paine National Park, and we saw the amazing Perito Moreno Glacier. We also enjoyed just tea with family in their home. In South Africa, we went on safari, we went to Cape Town, we enjoyed wonderful wine and food and had just a fantastic time. I've been to Africa, definitely want to go back. It's a fabulous place. And we went to Japan. I actually escorted this trip last year. We saw, of course, lots of shrines and temples because that's what you do in Japan. But we also learned about Ikebana. We got to do our own flower arranging. We had a discussion with these 2 beautiful geisha women, and we enjoyed the beautiful cherry blossoms. Again, a fabulous trip. And I just returned about a week and a half ago with a group. We went to Iceland, where we saw the Northern Lights. We went on a whale watching trip, a horseback ride, hikes. We went to another glacier, this one covered with ash, which was very unusual. And of course, the iconic waterfalls in Iceland. So those are just some of the places we've been. And let me tell you a little bit about the travel program and who sponsors it. So we are sponsored by the Council of UC Retirees Associations, CUCRA. And CUCRA is an all-volunteer organization as well, system-wide for UC, acts similarly to the Staff Assembly, where they advocate on behalf of UC retired staff. CUCRA was instrumental in establishing the Healthcare Facilitator Program. They help to ensure the continuance of retiree benefits, such as healthcare, and they encourage UC locations to offer perks such as free or reduced parking and support retiree associations at each UC location. So when you travel with UC Retirees Travel, you do provide support for CUCRA and their important work on behalf of retirees. We do work with 3 different tour operators. Colette, which has been in business for more than 100 years and offers a variety of group tours, 180 different group tours that they offer around the world, both standard sites tours and smaller group tours. We also work with Overseas Adventure Travel and Grand Circle Travel. Overseas Adventure Travel offers even smaller group sizes, maximum of 16 people on their land tours. And they also offer single rooms with no additional single supplement charge. And people really appreciate that about their small group tours. And then we partner with Premier World Discovery, primarily because they are one of the few tour operators that can go to Cuba. And we've had some very exciting trips to Cuba. So before I jump into the tours, let me also answer just a few frequently asked questions, because these questions tend to come up in all of our presentations. So if I cover this in the beginning, then we get more information out there. So our prices do include a dedicated tour leader from the tour operator, lodging, airfare, most group activities, mini meals, and most gratuities. You can fly from any major gateway or book your own air. So all of our trips you'll see on the flyers include air from San Francisco or Los Angeles, but that's just because that's where most of our travelers come from. If you want to fly from a different gateway, you can contact the tour operator and get a quote on other gateways. Or if you have friends, family that want to join you and they're flying from different parts of the country or even different parts of the world, they don't have to fly to California and join you on the flights. They can just meet us at the tour destination. Most trips are activity level 2 or level 3, and each tour operator has a little bit of a different definition of what's level 2 and level 3. But I would just say that a level 1 trip is a very leisurely trip with very little walking. Level 2 trips tend to be maybe a 1 to 2 hour walking tour in the morning, possibly a second one in the afternoon with more free time and less longer tours. And level 3 tends to involve a little more hiking, maybe some height elevations, more like 5 or 6 hours of activity per day. And what we have found is that most of our travelers tend to be moderately to active. If you are interested in more leisurely paced trips, we do offer a river cruise each year, and the river cruises tend to work real well for people that are looking for a more leisurely pace. Also, with 12 UC travelers, our escort will accompany the trip. With fewer than 12 travelers, we still will provide pre-trip assistance, but we don't send an escort along on the trip. However, if you don't have an escort from UC Retirees Travel, you always will have a group leader from our tour operator that's with you 24/7. So you do definitely have support of a multilingual local tour operator that's with you the entire tour. And friends and family are welcome. Our trips can be UC exclusive or they can be mixed. So our tour operators hold space for us until about 6 to 7 months prior to departure. And then once that date occurs, if we haven't filled the spaces, then they will open the trips up to the public. And so, we don't necessarily have to have exclusive trips. We do enjoy exclusive UC retiree travel trips, but we've had some great trips where we've been mixed with other travelers as well. Did Frank ever come on, Camille?
I haven't seen him enter. No, he's still not here.
Okay, hold on just one second. I'm just going to text Frank because he was going to be presenting with me here today. Let me see if he's having some technical difficulties.
I did just a few minutes ago resend his Zoom confirmation email.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to text him. If he doesn't come, I will just do his parts. So bear with me because I have text here, but he was going to do some of the trips and I was going to do some, but I can do them all. Our other volunteers, usually we have 3 or 4 people that do these presentations, but everybody else is traveling right now. We have a group in Greece right now, and then we have the other group getting ready to go to Cuba. So let's see where we're going. I am going to just briefly mention our trips that are already full because quite a few trips are full in the beginning half of 2024. But I am going to mention them because we do get cancellations. So if you are, there's Frank, there he is. If you do get, if you are interested in a trip, you can join the waiting list and we do get cancellations. So I encourage you to do that. So some of the trips that are full are our trip that's coming up to Costa Rica in January. I don't know if you've been to Costa Rica, but I have, and what a beautiful country. We will be seeing the wildlife and going to the Arenal volcano and visiting the beaches. It'll be a fabulous trip. The other trip that's full is one that Frank actually will be escorting, Australia, New Zealand. Again, I encourage you to join the waiting list. We will be traveling from the city to the outback and discovering the North and South Islands of New Zealand. Morocco's also full. Like I said, I'm going to do all the full ones first, and then we'll talk about the ones that have space. I'll be escorting this trip to Morocco, where we'll be visiting Marrakesh, Casablanca, and Fez, one of the holiest cities in the world, and much more. Our Turkey trip is full. Turkey is a country at the crossroads between Europe and Asia, and it's considered the world's most historically rich country. This trip will include a 4-night cruise on the Mediterranean coast in a Turkish small boat called a golet. We also have Croatia, which is full, another small yacht that will be touring through the islands of Croatia. So those are our full trips, not to depress everybody because they aren't all full. We've got some now that have space. And the first one that does have space has limited space. And this is our trip to Sicily. And we will be visiting Sicily, which is unique in that it's an autonomous region of Italy. It's really its own country within a country with its own history, culture, and way of living. Been occupied by the Greeks, the Romans, the Arabs, the Normans, the Spanish, and others. And so you'll see excellent preserved archaeological sites, cathedrals, palaces, and much more. The tour does start in Palermo, the capital of Sicily. There will be a walking tour and visits to the finest examples of architecture from Romanesque, Gothic, Baroque, and Art Nouveau. During your free time, you'll have opportunities to visit the busy markets and museums, wander the streets, eat pizza, and don't forget the cannolis. Vicky Lowe, who escorted this trip for us last year, said that she had a cannoli every single day. Now, me, when I'm traveling, I look for ice cream every single day. She was looking for the cannolis. We'll visit the archaeological site, Valle dei Templi, the Valley of Temples. There are 7 temples in this site, as well as an acropolis. This is the Temple of Concordia, considered the largest and best preserved Greek temple. And the tour includes visits to several towns in Sicily, including Ragusa. This was Vicky's favorite, and there's opportunities to wander through the narrow, winding streets, taking some of the most spectacular photos. And speaking of narrow winding streets, you'll get to discover the skills of Sicilian drivers as we sit beside one in a little Fiat 500 and watch how he manages to thread his way through the streets of Modica. So the prices for this from SFO or LAX are $53.95. This is an OAT small group trip up to 16 travelers, and there is a post trip to Puglia, which is highly recommended. Land rates are always available on all of our trips. And I will mention that this trip does have very limited space available. There are currently 2 single rooms available and 2 double rooms. The single rooms, I'm actually really surprised we still have single rooms available on this trip because, as I mentioned, OAT offers singles with no single supplement, and they're usually the first rooms to go. So if you particularly are a single traveler and you're interested in this trip, I would not hesitate to contact OAT and reserve for that. And I will be giving you our website. If you don't already have it, I'll be going over it at the end of the presentation. You'll be able to visit the website, click on the link for the trip, and that will give you the phone number to call to register. Okay, the next trip that we're going to be on next year is the Great Rivers Cruise, and Frank will be escorting this trip. So Frank, can you tell us about this one?
Sure. This is going to be a cruise from Amsterdam to Vienna, exploring historic villages and castles while marveling at the beautiful scenery on the Rhine, the Main, and Danube rivers. Along the way, we're going to visit Dusseldorf, Koblenz, Frankfurt, Wertheim, Würzburg, Gerlachhausen, Bamberg, Nuremberg, Regensburg, and Passau. Next slide. One of our included tours is the 15th century Heidelberg Castle, set on the edge of the Heidelberg Forest. The castle is a combination of several buildings surrounding an inner courtyard put together with a haphazard look. Construction began around 1300, and each building highlights a different period of German architecture. Quite a survey of time. Next slide. In Nuremberg, famous for its well-preserved historical landmarks like the Imperial Castle and the walled Old Town, We will enjoy a city tour with a local guide, which includes a visit to the Zeppelin Field rally grounds, where the Nazi Party held rallies for up to 100,000 spectators. Next, our trip ends in Vienna, where you can enjoy various options: musical Vienna performance, take a tour of the city featuring the Ringstraße, the wide boulevard that circles the city center, St. Stephen's Cathedral, and the Spanish Riding School, home of the famous Lipizzaner stallions, or the Hofburg Palace. And as you can see, the prices there from LAX or SFO, and the single supplement, although this isn't an O trip, the single supplement is not very expensive.
Yeah, this is actually an amazing single supplement for a river cruise. Often the cruises are double for a single. You almost have to pay for two people. So that's a great single supplement price. And I'll just remind you that the river cruises are great for people who want a more leisurely pace, or if there's two of you traveling together and you're at different paces, because what'll happen on the river cruise is when we have a walking tour, if there's different levels, they will break us into three different groups: the active walkers, the moderate walkers, and then what they call the gentle walkers. And the gentle walkers might just do a little stroll around town and have coffee in the cafe, while the active walkers will go up to the top of the hill and see the castle. So it's a great option for people who need a little bit of variety in terms of the activity level. And the other nice thing is you only unpack once, and you don't have to move from hotel to hotel. The boat becomes your moving hotel. Camille, I'm going to pause after every couple trips to see if there are any questions in the chat. Are there any so far?
Yes, let's see. Dale asked, how does one become an escort?
I'll send a follow-up email out to everybody who are with information about becoming an escort. We are not recruiting new escorts right now, but I do keep an interest list. And if we are at a time where we're recruiting escorts, I will send a note out to that interest list.
Okay, Linda says, how does one get on the waiting list for full trips?
So if you go to our website, the tour operators have, unfortunately, it's different processes. If it's a Colette trip, you'll contact Colette directly. If it is an OAT or Grand Circle trip, you will email us at UC Retirees Travel, and I'll get to those addresses by the end, and I'll also send a follow-up email or ask Camille to send a follow-up email with the links to those.
And our last question from Beverly is, are flights from LAX straight through?
It really depends on the destination. And I will say that since the pandemic, we sometimes are finding longer layovers and not as direct flights, but the tour operators do the very best they can. And depending on where you're going, there certainly can be direct flights. They do try to get direct flights whenever possible. Okay, that it for now?
That's it for now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next trip, and this is a very special one because in 2024, we'll be not celebrating, but recognizing the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And this is called our Memorials of WWII tour. And this is a Colette tour. Our expert tour will start in London, where we'll step back in time to 1940 and try and imagine the Germans were shelling London. We'll visit the iconic London landmarks and retrace Sir Winston Churchill's steps on Downing Street. And we'll visit the D-Day Story Museum in the English countryside of Portsmouth. I was just in France this summer and visited a lot of the sites that are included in this tour, including the D-Day beaches. And it's such a moving historical site to see and to imagine what it was like for the soldiers that were there. In the early hours of one morning, we'll board a ferry and cross the English Channel and reflect upon the parallel journey which nearly 160,000 courageous Allied soldiers took on June 6, 1944. And we'll learn the history of the largest amphibious invasion in history on the Normandy beaches. We'll visit the U.S. landing zones in Normandy and visit the Con Peace Memorial Museum, which I also visited this summer, and it was a very well done museum, very interesting. We also, for a little change of pace, will visit Monet's Giverny before heading to Paris. I don't know if you've been to Giverny. I was there also this summer. Absolutely gorgeous, just a beautiful, beautiful garden, overrun with tourists, I have to say, but we were lucky to get there first thing in the morning, and we had about 15 minutes to make our way through the garden and take our picture on the bridge before the rest of the crowds arrived. So hopefully this tour will be able to get you there early in the morning, but absolutely beautiful. And then this tour will end in Paris with a dinner cruise along the Seine. There's nothing more magical, I don't think, than touring along the Seine in a river boat, watching the Eiffel Tower sparkle. They call it sparkle at night, where they have blinking lights on it. Absolutely beautiful. And that's where we'll end this tour. So this is a Colette tour, so it does not have the free single supplement, but it has a reasonable single supplement. Doubles are $49.99 and the single is $59.99. Always land rates available. Now these rates are good until December, my 4th, I think it is. My things are covering up that
20th.
number. 28th. Okay, sorry, December 28th. My videos are covering up that number. And at that point, the rates go up, and that also is the date then where this our spaces would be opened up to the public, because we're about then 6 or 7 months before the trip. So if you're interested in that trip, do register before that deadline in December. Okay, Frank will tell us about Japan.
Okay. You'll get to explore more than 2,000 years of Japanese history and culture. If you do the March departure, you'll be going during cherry blossom season. And then, of course, not so much in September. This is a no trip, so it is a small group. We will visit Tokyo, the former imperial capital of Kyoto, Kanazawa, and more. Our journey begins in Tokyo. We'll revisit we will revisit a taiko studio to learn from a drum master and take a walking tour of the Sakusa area, featuring temples and many shops. We'll enjoy lunch at a woman-owned and operated sushi restaurant. Next, we'll also visit Kanazawa, one of Japan's best preserved historic cities. We'll tour the Higashiya Chiga district, known for its tea houses, marvel at the glorious Kenrokuen garden, and visit the 300-year-old Omicho market, which is an open stall kind of facility. We will see many traditional temples on this trip, including the stunning temple of the Golden Pavilion in Kyoto, a Zen Buddhist temple that is lavishly covered in gold foil. And as you can see here, this is a no trip, so there's no single supplement, and the SFO and LAX departures are only $100 apart. There's also a post trip to Hiroshima if you're interested. And Sue went on the post trip last time, so she can talk a little bit about Hiroshima if she wants to.
Yeah, I loved that Hiroshima post trip. One of the things that we did on that trip was had a conversation with a woman who was a survivor. She was 8 years old when the bomb went off, and she spoke to us so eloquently about the lifelong effect on her family from the bombing at the time. And, you know, there won't be that many years left that there will be survivors that can talk about their experience in Hiroshima. So for me, that was a very moving and very important part of the trip. Now, as Frank mentioned, our March trip is already full, but we did open a September departure, which you won't have cherry blossoms in September, but you will have fall colors. So it's really beautiful in the fall as well. Again, we have a coveted single space available on this trip right now, and we do also still have 4 double rooms available as well. So there's still time to sign up for that, but not a lot of time probably for that single space. Okay. Next trip is Scotland, and I will be escorting this one. Actually, let me pause and see if there's questions, Camille, because we did 2 trips.
Yeah, there's a couple that have come in. Rita asks, is Sicily tour exclusively UC or mixed with other travelers?
It will likely be exclusively UC because we currently, I think, have 11 people registered and the maximum on that is 16. So almost all of our OAT trips end up being exclusive because they're that small group size. We don't know for sure. We have to fill the spaces within the next month or so here. And if not, there may be a few people of the public that would join us.
And CJ asks, are tour guides available for the pre and post trips as well?
So it depends on the tour operator. I would say in most cases, yes, and it depends on the country you're going to. So, for example, sometimes Colette on their pre and post extensions, if it's a country where it's easy to go around and English speaking, they will offer that at a lower price and won't have a 24/7 tour guide. You'll have somebody there that you can call if you need assistance. OAT trips do all of their post and pre extensions do have a 24/7 tour guide with them. So it'll tell you in the description for the extension whether there is a tour guide or not. So I'd say the vast majority of the extensions do have a tour guide, but you'll just want to check that description.
Great, those are the only questions right now.
Okay, so then let's look at Scotland. So I will be escorting the October Scotland trip, which filled almost immediately. So we did open a second departure in September. And the journey in Scotland will take us to Glasgow, Inverness, Edinburgh, St. Andrews, and more. We'll be touring Edinburgh's Old Town, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And I don't know about you, but I absolutely love visiting UNESCO World Heritage Sites. They're designated as such for a reason. They tend to be the most beautiful, most amazing, well-preserved sites in the world. And so Edinburgh is one of those sites. We'll be walking the Royal Mile to Edinburgh Castle. And this area has preserved much of its medieval street plan and features many Reformation area buildings. Absolutely gorgeous. We're also going to be visiting St. Andrews, a seaside town known for its many golf courses and home to the University of St. Andrews. Founded in 1413, St. Andrews is the oldest university in Scotland and the third oldest university in the English-speaking world. I don't know about you, but I love going to universities when I'm traveling other places and to see the difference between the universities and colleges in other countries. So even if we don't have a tour, I think we have a tour of this, but even if we don't, I'll be spending some of my free time going over to the university to check it out. And then for a change of pace, we're going to be taking a cruise on Loch Ness and learning more about the legend of the Loch Ness monsters, which dates back more than 1,000 years. There's no extensions available for this particular trip, but because both of the beginning and the ending cities, Edinburgh and Glasgow, are easy to get around on your own, you can customize your trip and stay longer or go earlier. In fact, you can do that for all of our trips. If you want to have a particular stopover someplace for a few days before you join the tour, or you want to go to a different country after you join the tour, you can just work with our tour operators to customize your air travel. Flights do have to end and begin in the US. So like you can't completely end your trip overseas. So you would have to return to the US at some point, but you could do that with a different schedule than what we have. So this is an OAT trip, so it's the same price for singles or doubles. We do still have 3 singles available and 3 doubles on that September trip. Okay. Then we have Alpine Lakes and Scenic Trains, Frank.
One of our legendary train trips.
Yeah.
Climb aboard the legendary Alpine Railways and set out on a journey across the captivating alpine landscapes of Switzerland and Italy. We will ride 2 legendary train routes, the Glacier Express and the Bernina Pass train. Relax in some of Europe's most stunning and exclusive resort villages, soaking in the alpine views you've been dreaming of, and particularly if you've watched any James Bond movies. Next, our tour begins in Zurich, Switzerland's largest city. We will enjoy a walking tour and have some time to explore the charming old town or its many museums. Then we board the world-renowned Glacier Express train for a scenic ride to Zermatt, where you can explore the Matterhorn Museum or take another train ride to experience elevated views of the Matterhorn. Next, we'll spend 3 nights at Lake Maggiore in Italy, where we will stroll the picturesque towns of Stresa, Verbania, and Palazza, and then board a private boat for a cruise to Isla Pescatori, where we will enjoy dinner at a local restaurant. Next, and then we end the trip in Lucerne, the Swiss paradise on the lake, where we will tour on foot and by gondola, ascending to soak in the alpine views from a 7,000 foot above sea level. We end the day with a farewell dinner, and as you can see, the different prices there. This is going to be a larger trip with since this is not an O trip, you can see that the single supplement is about $1,000 more.
Thank you, Frank. All right, and Frank's going to tell us about the next trip too. He's escorting this one.
I'm looking forward to this one. This is a shorter trip, so for people who are short on time, this might be the one to look at. We're going to enjoy a 7-night stay at one hotel in Chianti. So this is also one of these trips where we won't have to change hotels every 2 days. The Chianti region is filled with hilltop towns and wonderful vineyards. We will delve into this beautiful countryside as we experience educational tours, cooking demonstrations, classes, wine tasting, and more. The more being we get to taste all this stuff that we learn about. Our tour begins with a Florence city tour that includes a visit to the Academy Gallery to see Michelangelo's original statue of David, and much more. We will then travel to a lovely Tuscan estate where we enjoy a truffle demonstration and a wonderful dinner. Next, explore more than I've lost my place here. Oh, just a sec. Oh, here we go. Nope. I am missing a piece of paper.
Okay. So let me just chat about this one. We'll travel to the incredibly picturesque Val d'Orca regions with ancient villages, gorgeous farmhouses, fabulous vineyards, and an olive grove. We'll visit a traditional farmhouse in the beautiful town of Montalcino, where we'll enjoy a multi-sensory experience of music and wine. Are you back?
Yes.
Okay.
Next, the last slide. On the last day of the trip, we will take a boat excursion on the heart-shaped Lake Trasimeno, located in the Umbria region of Tuscany. After exploring the medieval town in Nuoro, considered one of the most beautiful villages in Italy, we will cruise to the island Maggiore, where we will dine at a local restaurant on the lake. And then we end our trip with a special farewell dinner. This is, as you can see, the double and the single supplement is a little more than some of the other ones we've seen, but it's a fantastic trip. And I'm looking forward to some fine dining. I think all the trips we have good meals, but this is particularly geared to that. So yeah. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, this one's all about the food and wine. This trip is filling very quickly. We have limited space on this one. So if you're interested in that one, you won't want to hesitate for too long here. All right, then we have our Kingdoms of Southeast Asia. Actually, let me pause one more time here, Camille, and see if there's other questions.
There are no new questions right now.
Okay. Kingdoms of Southeast Asia in November. We will be delving into the world of rural landscapes and bustling cities in Southeast Asia. We'll explore a mosaic of culture and history in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and Thailand, covering a lot of space, a lot of distance in this trip to see some of the highlights. Our journey will begin in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, where we'll enjoy a city tour and a walking food tour and board a junk boat for an overnight cruise, during which we'll have a Tai Chi lesson and explore limestone grottos in Halong Bay, another UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site. We'll spend 3 nights in Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon, where we'll tour the city, cruise the Mekong Delta, and explore the Chu Tri tunnels, a maze of underground passageways used as hideouts by the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. A major highlight of this trip is our visit to the vast religious complex of Angkor Wat in Cambodia. With more than 1,000 buildings, it's one of the largest cultural wonders of the world. It's the world's largest religious structure, covering some 400 acres, and marks the high point of Khmer architecture. So you can see the prices for this one. This is a Colette small group travel, which maximum is 24 travelers, but Colette tends to go with an average of 17 to 18. So they actually end up having about the same size in their small groups as OAT does, but you could have a maximum of up to 24 travelers. And this trip is also filling very quickly and has limited space available. Okay, Frank's going to tell us about the last one of 2024.
Okie doke. If you love Christmas markets but want a trip closer to home, this is a wonderful opportunity. We stay in two gorgeous properties, the historic Fairmont, the Queen Elizabeth Hotel in Montreal, and the Fairmont Chateau Frontenac Hotel in Quebec. In Montreal, we enjoy a city tour, including the Old City, with its 17th and 18th century architecture and cobblestone streets. After 2 nights in Montreal, we board via Rail Canada for a scenic and relaxing train ride to the Paris of North America, Quebec City. In Quebec, we'll visit the old Quebec Christmas market, enjoy a tour of Quebec City, the oldest city in Canada, and one of the best preserved cities in North America. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Old Town is filled with narrow cobblestone streets, stone buildings, fortifications, and a cosmopolitan French-Canadian culture. We get out of the cities to visit Montserrat Fall, the highest falls in eastern Canada, 98 feet higher than Niagara Falls. On this day, we also visit the Saint Anne de Beprou Shrine, located in the shores of the St. Lawrence River, as well as the Albert Gills Copper Museum. And as you can see, the single supplement is about $1,000 more. It's a Colette trip, so as Sue was saying, it may have some other travelers on it, but because it's a small group trip, it may still only have 18 or 20 people.
Yeah, it's actually a premier trip, but they have the same.
Oh, I'm sorry, premier.
That's okay. Yeah, I knew you knew that. Okay, so that wraps up all of our trips for 2024. I'm going to pause here again for a second, Camille, and see if there's any questions that have come in.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. Virginia asks, how well do these tour companies accommodate vegetarians?
In my experience, great. My husband, literally every tour we go on has vegetarian, vegan, dairy, lactose intolerant, and gluten-free. So the tour leaders do a great job accommodating all the different diets. And there's some other ones as well, but those are the major ones. Of course, it's always going to depend on the countries we visit and what's available. So sometimes you won't have as many choices depending on our destination as other times. But in my experience, the tours do a fantastic job. In fact, this is why I've become a real fan of these tours, because my husband is lactose intolerant, and trying to find places to eat when we're traveling, when we don't speak the language, it makes me nuts. And when I go on the tours, I don't have to worry about it. Someone else can take care of his special diets, and they do a fantastic job.
Great. Eileen asked, what are the dates for the Tuscany trip?
Tuscany?
October 15th through the 23rd.
Thank you, Frank.
2024.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Linda wants to know, any chance the Tuscany trip could be done again if these dates don't work for them?
We are not currently planning to do it in 2025, but if it sells out this year, often with trips that sell out, we'll wait another year and then we'll do it again. So yes, popular trips we do tend to repeat, 2 or 3 years down the road.
And then Michelle says, I've always traveled independently. What would you say are the pros and cons of traveling as a group, and how much free time do you get?
That's a great question because I always traveled independently as well. Until I retired, I had never taken a group tour. And there are definitely pros and cons to both. So with independent travel, you have more flexibility. There's just no doubt. You can set your own schedule. You can decide to stay longer in a place if you want to, or to cut it short and move on to the next place. With group travel, you have a schedule more that you have to maintain. But what I love about group travel is that I have this expert guide with me 24/7 who can tell me the stories and give me the insights about the country. I learned so much more on these trips than I do when I was traveling independently. And I don't have to worry about where I'm staying. I don't have to drive in some place where I don't speak the language. And I don't have to think about anything. So for me, I've become a real fan. I don't know, Frank, is there anything else you would add?
I would agree with all that. I would also add that particularly if it's a country you don't speak the language, it makes life so much easier. And often when you're traveling with a prearranged group, access to certain places are either faster, or we get into places that you wouldn't be able to go by yourself. I mean, I used to always think I would never want to do group travel. I used to arrange my own stuff, but particularly with the UC travel that I've been involved in, everything has been wonderful, and the groups are small enough that it doesn't feel like, you know, one of those 50-person tours that some people have experienced, which can be really horrendous. So I mean, I don't want to wait for a bad one, but I would say that give it at least a shot and see if you like it or not. I think you'll find you'll like it much better than you may have thought you would.
Yeah. And in terms of free time, it really depends on the trip. Some trips incorporate more free time than others. So you'd want to review the itinerary. Every trip on our website, if you click on the image, you'll get to the trip flyer that gives you the basic itinerary for the day. And if you have specific questions about like exactly how much free time is available on an itinerary, you can call the tour operator and they can give you a little more detailed information. I would say most days on most trips, we will have an activity in the morning, usually a guided tour or some kind of interactive activity, a cooking class or a ikebana, flower arranging. And then we'll have lunch either as a group or on your own. Most meals are included, but there are some meals on your own. And then we may have another activity in the afternoon, or we may have free time in the afternoon, again, depending on the itinerary and depending on the activity level of the trip too, whether it's a 2 or a 3. Activity level 2 trips probably tend to have a little more free time because there's not as much walking that you're expected to do.
I would also point out, at least the trips I've been involved in, if you want to not do something because either you're tired or you want to do something else, they've been able to accommodate that. So, I mean, I think it would depend on the particular city and particularly the risk factor that might be involved. But all these groups that we've traveled with have allowed people to, you know, if they have a particular thing they've always wanted to do in a particular location, it usually can be accommodated on your own.
I would say always. And I mean, you have to be in the same city we're in generally. They
Right.
don't want you like
Yes.
flying somewhere else and then coming back later. But if, like Frank said, often we'll have people, either they have friends in a country and they want to spend the day with them, or they just want to do something that's not included in the itinerary. You're welcome to go and do your own thing and just come back to the hotel when we're ready to go to the next town, even, you know, as long as you stay with the group in terms of where we're traveling to. The other thing, the other thing I would say about that is some of the tours, probably most of the tours, include 1 or 2 optional activities that are for an extra fee. They keep that to a minimum, but most tours include 1 or 2. The reason for that is that some people do prefer more free time, and so they choose not to do the optional tours, and other people, or they just want to rest, recharge a little bit, and other people want to see every possible thing they can possibly see, and so they want to do the optional tours. So there's usually 1 or 2 opportunities like that on every tour as well.
Kathleen asked about how to access the website, so I put the website link in the chat for everybody.
And it's on the bottom of this slide as well. So it's
There you go.
cupra.ucsd.edu/travel. And we'll send a follow-up email as well. And the one thing I do after these events, for the people who registered for this event, we do add you to our email notification list. You can always unsubscribe if you decide you don't want to be on that. That's not a problem. Or you can email us and say, please don't add me to the list. But we don't spam you. We generally send out emails once per month. That's where you'll find about our newest trips and get a chance to register for them before they fill. And every once in a while, we'll send something out in between, but not very often. But for example, for Iceland, we had 2 very last minute cancellations about 3 weeks before departure. So we sent out an email saying, hey, we've got these spaces open, and we were able to get 2 people on the trip 3 weeks before departure. So those kind of last minute opportunities can come up as well.
Julie asks, what are the payment options?
So for most trips, depending on how far out you register, there will be a final payment, generally 60 to 90 days before departure. Final payment will be due. Before that time, you can register with a deposit. Depends on the tour operator and the trip, but it's generally somewhere between $400 and $600 per person for the deposit. And then if you want to purchase trip insurance, you can do that when you register for the trip. You could also do that later, or you could purchase trip insurance from another outside company. You don't have to purchase it from our tour operators. If you don't purchase it when you reserve the trip, then it doesn't cover pre-existing conditions. Other than that, everything would be covered even if you purchase it later. And with most of the tour operators, you can purchase the insurance up until final payment deadline. And each flyer will give the final payment deadline. Sometimes when there's a boat involved, final payments more than 60 to 90 days out because they're working with a ship that they have to charter. So.
Christine's looking for a little more information about traveling to Italy in the end of the year, and asks how cold it gets in Tuscany in November and December.
Well, we'll be going in October, which the weather should be pretty good then. I would say you just have to look it up online to see what the November, December temperatures are. I think it can get chilly. I don't know, Frank, do you know more about the exact temperatures?
No, but I'd say everything in Europe is getting warmer longer. So
Yeah,
the historical stuff may not be accurate anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Mary asked, how do the groups move from one city to the next?
Most of the time, again, it depends on the trip. Most of the time we'll be in a bus. And depending on the country we're in, a lot of times we're in, even with only 16 people, we're in a 40 or 50 passenger bus. So it's really nice to be able to spread out, and the seats are really comfortable and it's great. Depending on the country, we may be in smaller buses or other types of transportation. Like, for example, when we were in Japan, we very rarely were on the bus. We mostly took public transportation because that's what Japanese people do. And so that's how we got around. So we were on trains and subways and ferries and streetcars and bullet trains. So we got to really experience the local transportation. But I would say most of the time we're going to be on a large motor coach bus.
And sometimes we all got together at the same place at the same time.
Don't say that.
Occasionally, depending on the tour and the size of the country, there might be an internal small plane trip from one city to another.
That's a good point. So your itinerary will tell you if we have internal flights. For example, when we went to Chile and Argentina, that was a longer trip, but it also involved 3 internal flights because there's a lot of distance to cover between the places that we went to. So there were 3 flights during the trip.
And then Carlos asks if he can still be on the waiting list for the Japan trip in March.
Sure. Yeah. Just send an email. and we can get you added onto that waiting list. Send an email to ucretiriestravel@gmail.com because that's an OAT trip. For Colette trips, you'll contact Colette directly to get on the waiting list. For OAT trips, I keep that waiting list. It's not too late. Like I said, we got 2 people on the Iceland trip 3 weeks before departure. So,
That's currently our last question.
okay.
Does anyone else have
Well,
any questions?
I encourage you to visit our website. I will send a follow-up email or have Camille send it out with some links to the website. So you'll have our email address and a little more information maybe about which trips are filling quickly, just as a reminder. But if you visit our website, as I mentioned, click on the trip image. That'll bring up the trip flyer, and that gives you all the information about the itinerary, how to register, costs, and all of that kind of thing. Anything else come in, Camille?
No, people are just saying thank you.
Okay, so I
Very
just
informative, they say.
good. I just want to end with a couple of images of one of our travelers, Susie Sandoval from UC Irvine. She's already gone on 2 UC Retirees travel trips to Havana, to Cuba and to South Africa, and she's registered for 3 more already. And I thought she just gave some great advice to travelers, and her advice was travel now while we can. Continue learning and engaging with peers. Embrace these amazing UC Retirees travel adventures across the globe and support KUKRA at the same time. And KUKRA's work to advocate on behalf of retirees is so important and relies on the travel program for their hard work. So thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it and hope to see you on a trip very soon.
Great. Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Frank. We'll see you next time.
And thank you, Camille, for hosting.
Of course. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.